welcome to episode 189 of In Touch with iOS, a podcast that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies. I am your host, Dave Ginsburg. My co-host, Warren Sklar, is off this week, but I have two great guests. Kelly Guimont's back on the show. How you doing, Kelly?
I'm good. I can't figure out why Warren is never here when I am.
I don't know. It just seems to end up that way.
I know why.
Well, I think I know why, but Warren keeps trying to tell me that it's actually not true.
And that other voice you heard is Jeff Gamet. Hi, Jeff.
I am happy to be here with Alt Warren.
Yes. Absolutely.
Playing the part of Warren this evening, we have Jeff Gamet.
That is.
I mean, we all know, and Kelly, you may be the only person that doesn't know. You and Warren actually are the same person.
That's right. Oh, I think we need to go do a show here. So we got lots of news this week.
We're all here. Hit record. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. We are all here this week having some fun and lots of news that happened this week. Beta, iOS 15.4 beta 2 was dropped, and we got some more AirTag stuff, and let's just get to it. We got all kinds of great stuff to talk about. This actually was breaking news. This just got released today as we record this. Got a link to Macworld here. iOS 15.3.1 released to patch critical zero-day WebKit vulnerability. It was a very high priority update. I tell you right now, go out, update it. You got to get it done. It does also fix a problem with that could cause Braille displays to stop responding. So that's good as well to help our blind listeners here. But most importantly, it was to fix a critical WebKit zero-day vulnerability that may have already been used in the wild. Apple release notes are saying that it's that is Apple's web rendering engine that's required to be used by all browsers on iOS and iPadOS, not just Safari. So, in other words, just go out and update it. Did you guys get you already update your iPhones? I did.
Of course.
And I know you did.
My watch.
And Apple Watch too, which we'll talk about in a sec here, and iPad as well. So it's iPad, iPhone, and then as we just mentioned, Apple Watch is a 8.4.2, and it is really 0.1 just not even a week ago, or 2 weeks ago. Or no, a week ago, because the A4 came out 2 weeks ago. So it's been two updates within the last 2 weeks. So it's saying unspecified bug fixes and security updates for the Apple Watch.
And specifically when it's something that's not very interesting that Apple is fixing in one of these releases, they're usually very, very clear about it.
Right.
And you get lots of documentation. And when it's just sort of one of these hand wavy, it's a new number and you need to go download it. That's usually when it's really scary. And it's definitely something that you need to do right away.
Yeah. It's definitely some security fixes. So like we say, iPadOS, iOS, WatchOS, I think tvOS probably was updated too. Do them all. Get them doing. I don't know. Didn't see anything talked about tvOS, but
I checked. What time is it? About an hour and a half ago, and as we're recording, and I did not have a tvOS update.
Okay, so tvOS is safe for now.
Or it just doesn't have an update yet,
or they haven't discovered the actual fix yet, or something.
Yeah. So like I said, go out, update it now. It's very important. You want to be secure. So moving on, this story is for our friend Chuck Joyner. Apple hit with a class action lawsuit over jelly scrolling on the iPad Mini. A Colorado resident on Wednesday filed a class action lawsuit against Apple that accuses the company of fraudulently marketing and selling the 6th generation iPad Mini despite being aware of a so-called jelly scrolling that defect that with the device. According to court documents, a few days after the 6th generation iPad Mini was released in September, some users were starting to notice that text was appearing slightly uneven while scrolling in portrait orientation on the device. Specifically, text on the left side of the screen appears to be ever so slightly lag behind text on the right side. So this was filed in Northern California District Court, and alleging that Apple is aware of the defect, yet continues to sell the iPad mini without any fix and the defect of, or amending its marketing materials reflecting the existence of the defect.
I feel like defect is a really strong word.
It is. I think I agree with you. It's just
it's a good thing this is a family show. Otherwise, I would tell you exactly what it is.
Yeah, it's well, you use crap. But.
Oh, I have a pretty firm grip on exactly what it is. Yeah. Like the thing is, I've seen video of it like actually happening.
Yeah.
And even I had to watch the video, and I have very good vision, and I had to watch the video more than one time to see the thing that they're taking Apple to court over.
Have you seen the image that they included in the court document in the filing?
I have not.
Oh my God. Okay, so it's this full
Let me get
color
popcorn.
image.
Hold on.
Let's go.
Yeah. Okay, so it's a full color image, and it's someone holding an iPad, and so you see their hands on the iPad, and they kind of have their finger on the screen, and then there's a clearly photoshopped image on the iPad screen where someone took an image and then just used the distort tools and stretched and bent it. And it looks
simulate.
It looks horrible. I mean, it's really, really bad. And then you have to read in the text in the filing where it says what you experience it looks similar to this image, which is completely absolutely false. It is not what the scrolling looks like at all.
And in the video I saw, and I think I've seen two different videos that said like, it's in this video if you can see it, basically. And it sort of looks like you have to be scrolling pretty fast in order to sort of trigger. Like, I'm not saying there's not a thing there that people are seeing. There is a thing. People are seeing it. It is legitimate. That it is impactful to your use of the device is the part I find surprising, because you have to be scrolling pretty fast. So it's not like you're reading anything. And as you scroll at like reasonable reading speed or even unreasonable reading speed, I read really fast, and, I scroll sometimes faster. And even then, like, you can't read it and get this jelly scroll effect at the same time, which is the part that really surprises me about this court ruling, because it's not affecting the usability of the device. It's not impactful, because when it does that, it's not scrolling more slowly, and it's not keeping you from reading anything, because the speed that you're scrolling is what's keeping you from reading. So I still don't quite understand. Like, they filed, but like there's still sort of like, yes, this is going to be allowed to proceed. That has to happen yet, right?
Yeah, this is just the filing.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I thought this was
it's
weird.
A load of crap.
Yeah.
There's a thing called screen refresh. And what they're describing happens on literally every display.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Like LCDs, right? Like if you like any LCD screen is going to be susceptible to this same display behavior, I guess is the right way to say that.
Right. And on some devices, it's a little bit more noticeable than others. And I have played with the iPad mini. And
I'm so jealous.
It wasn't mine. I was in an Apple store with my mask on, and I tried to do the jelly scroll thing, and basically what I saw was something that if you wanted to file a lawsuit over this, you were just desperate to file a lawsuit.
That's why I wish Chuck was here. He'd just be all over this class action stuff.
He would be going crazy.
Yeah.
This very much feels like, I had to file 10 lawsuits so I could get the 11th free.
Right.
I have a punch card down at the courthouse.
Package.
Yeah. So it's just, like I don't understand it. I didn't mean to spend a bunch of time on this, but like this is the kind of thing that's going to get a lot of attention. That's why I like to talk about stuff like this on TDO. Is not because I like to talk about it, but to give people a much clearer idea of what it is all those headlines are actually about. Because the headline is not going to do a very good job of telling you. So
it teases you
like that. That's why we spend a minute on exactly this sort of thing. And if I may be so bold, that's part of why sometimes we like to have the right people on the show to talk about these things. So tomorrow on TDO, I am talking to a lawyer about the NDA situation and Apple, and explaining to people a little bit more about the mechanics of those agreements and why they can sometimes be troublesome and how they've evolved into something that people are using as weapons.
Very cool. Good timing.
Yeah.
Speaking of timing,
there's lots of headlines like this that come out, and then people are like, am I supposed to be mad at Apple about something? And like, you can, but like in practical terms, be mad at Apple if you want to be mad at Apple, but don't use this as the basis for that. Speaking
of timing, before the show, Kelly was showing us her Ted's Biscuits T-shirt, and I didn't get it because I've been obliviated with Ted Lasso for all these months. Got to go back and watch it. I completely drew a blank. But this story, this is about Ted Lasso season 3, saying it's likely delayed due to a football wrinkle. That we may have to wait a little bit longer for new episodes. Whereas,
would it be more accurate to say that it might be delayed because of a wrinkle in time?
Could be. But they're saying in an article here, they're saying that they're in pre-production, scripts are written, but the cameras will start rolling later than usual because of a football wrinkle up, specifically when they'd be able to shoot the football scenes. They are starting definitely later this year than when they did in season 2. That's for sure. And this was Brendan Hunt, aka Coach Beard, is saying that it's going to be a bit of a delay. But rest assured, they'll get the cameras rolling going soon. But we're feeding off of a cliffhanger. I don't know. I don't want to spoil it, but there is a cliffhanger. You got to go back and watch it. But it was a long time ago. It was a long time ago. We might be able to get to.
But I respect your non-spoiler stance on this.
Yeah.
So a thing that I think sometimes, just on Ted Lasso for a moment, a thing I think sometimes people don't realize is that it's co-created by Coach Beard and Ted Lasso. Jason Sudeikis and Brendan Hunt are the two guys that came up with it in the first place.
Right.
And one of the writers is Brett Goldstein, who plays Roy Kent, and he wasn't even going to be cast on the show. So this is one of those cases where a lot of the people who are involved behind the camera are also people who are in front of it. So anytime you hear stuff and it's just a guy on the show, like he's way more than just a guy on the show. And so that's so like if he's saying it, that's pretty solid evidence that that's something that's legitimate.
All right.
So.
I got the song in my head. He's there. He's here. He's there. He's every F where. Roy Kent.
I'm going to tell you. Okay, then I'm going to tell you a tiny Roy Kent story. So there's an actual footballer whose name is also 2 syllables, and I'm not going to remember his name. But that was the song they sang for him. And then he did an interview, and they were like, "So you finally got a football chant?" And he was like, "Yeah, my grandma doesn't like it because there's a bad word in it. So when my gran sees me on TV, it sort of upsets her." And so then they changed it. And so then the next time he went out on the field, they went, "He's there, he's here, he's there. We're not allowed to swear."
That's great.
And I just love that story.
So don't worry, Ted Lasso will be back. Of course, go watch it on Apple TV Plus. You got 2 great seasons. If you're under a rock and haven't watched that show, you got to go do it.
Wait, Jeff, can we file a class action lawsuit against Apple for this?
Already did.
Right. Okay.
It's in the works.
Colorado resident strikes again.
Yeah.
That's right.
I didn't even mention that. I should have mentioned that. Next story here. This is a 9to5 Mac. Home widget for HomeKit gets updates with sensor support, different panel sizes, and more. The home widget for the HomeKit is probably one of the coolest apps for improving your experience with the HomeKit-enabled accessories on iOS. Offers access to home automation directly from your home screen. The app was updated on Wednesday with great new features, including sensor support, different panel sizes, and more. this is version 1.1.0 of Home Widget for the HomeKit finally. You can get access to a lot of your sensors, which I think is good. I know, Cal, you're a big HomeKit person. Is this something that you've been using before?
I didn't even know about this app's existence until I was reading the show notes. So I must now diminish and go into the West.
Yeah.
I didn't know, and it looks amazing. And so I will probably happily pay money for this in order to make it easier to manage those things. The thing that I think is interesting about HomeKit is that the things I find work the best with it are generally not things from Apple. And I don't mean the devices I'm controlling.
Right.
I mean, when I want to interact with it on my phone or my iPad, the things that I use to do that don't tend to be the home app unless there's some compelling reason, like I can only do it there or something. I use other stuff to manage all of those devices. So, I'm still not super happy with HomeKit yet. I sort of came to it begrudgingly over time. And I only use it now because I have HomePod minis that live in my house. And so that's the only reason. HomePods mini? That's the only reason that I ended up spending much time at all in HomeKit, was to be able to say, hey, lady, turn on the lights or whatever. And so I haven't spent a ton of time with it. I just have a lot of smart home gear, and I just have like a folder full of apps that I use to control everything. But so I'm very excited to hear about the widget, because this home widget situation, because that's another one that I find very frustrating that Apple doesn't give me. I have to go to Control Center and use that instead if I want to control things easily. And I would much rather have a widget. So I'd also like to have a widget for mail, but apparently I'm the only one, because Apple doesn't seem to be steering their way clear to do that either. So there you go. You
didn't know about this, Jeff?
Yes, I've been using this widget for a while, and I went and checked just now to make sure that the update had installed so that I can play with more stuff, and it has. So
sweet.
I'll be doing that after the show.
Awesome. So
and Kelly, it's worth whatever it costs. I don't even remember.
Yeah, I'm looking. It's $8.99 for lifetime. You might as well.
For lifetime?
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah, I think I'm doing it too. I don't even have it either. Yeah. So and they don't even collect data. No data linked to you.
Yeah. So tune in for the debut podcast on the In Touch Network, where David, Kelly, and Jeff talk about In Touch with HomeKit.
There we go. All right, go grab it. And this story here, this is about Apple Music. Apple Music's free trial is now down to, I believe, 1 month now. But now it requires a purchase of an AirPods, HomePods, or a Beats. That's the only choices you have right now. This has changed. This is Apple has made a big change to the app this week. As we record, they reduced it from 3 months. Reduced its 3 month free trial. Although its inception 3 month trial had helped set it apart from competitors like Spotify and others. But new subscribers can get a 6 month free trial of Apple Music with their choice of audio device. But it looks like it's going to be limited to just AirPods and AirPods Max and the HomePod and HomePod Mini. Well, no, HomePod isn't sold anymore. And the Beats Fit Pro. Yeah. So audio devices, which makes sense. Now you don't just buy anything. That's how they. They were doing that for Apple TV Plus, but. This is. I could see why Apple's finally just trying to get things in check here. Don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense. Because what Apple needed to do initially was saturate to get as many people on board right up front as they could. Mm-hmm. And my assumption is that because Apple thinks these things through way, way down the road, that they had a threshold that when they hit that, then it would scale back the amount of time that you get on the free trial, and then scale back which devices get the free Apple Music trial. And so things, I'm assuming, are progressing along well enough that they hit those points in their numbers spreadsheet And so here we are.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and last story for this week. This is The Verge. Apple says a small portion, quote unquote, of iPhones recorded interactions with Siri, even if you opted out. Apple says it's deleting any inadvertently collected recordings. Apple has acknowledged on an iOS 15 bug that may have recorded interactions with Siri on some devices, regardless of you were to opt out or not. This was according to a report from CDNet. The bug automatically enabled the improved Siri and dictation setting that gives Apple permission to record, store, and review your conversations in Siri with Siri. And Apple tells The Verge that they identified the bug shortly after the release of iOS 15, stopped reviewing any recordings that inadvertently received, and deleted info from affected devices. So they're saying it's specific. There wasn't every device. Once they discovered the bug, they turned off the feature for many users, quote unquote, many, they're saying, and corrected the opt-in setting when they released iOS 15.2. So they kept this kind of secret because I don't recall this. We didn't talk too much about this, and it looks like that they did clarify that Apple is deleting and no longer reviewing recordings from users who have not yet upgraded to iOS 15.2. Well, you better be up at 15.2 at this point because we're at 15.3. So, what do you think? I'm glad Apple reacted to it, but they weren't very public about it. That's kind of a disappointing. But.
Yeah.
Well, Apple controls the message. That's their thing.
Yeah.
So, on one hand, I would have liked Apple to have been more transparent about this right up front. On the other hand, Apple doesn't like to just go out there and say this thing happened and we don't have any details.
Right.
So once they had the whole thing completely taken care of and their dust settled, then they said, hey, this happened and here's what we did. And it's all taken care of. So good on them. But at the same time, it would have been nice to know about this earlier.
Yeah. I didn't see a ton about like the exact timeline on this, but it also seems like the window was not open for very long. Like from the time they discovered it to the time they locked it down, seems like they were very much on top of it. And sometimes that's not the case. So I do appreciate that, at least in this case, it seemed like, this is bad. And they reacted as quickly as they could for a company that size. And I'm glad about that. And I'm glad they were transparent about it after. But like Jeff, I wish it had been a little more obvious before.
Sure. I mean, there are people that would have immediately gone into their settings and manually changed it. But they didn't know, or maybe they did. Some of them, I'm sure some of them figured out that their setting was screwed up and fixed it. But it would have been nice to know so that people that really, really wanted to shut that off immediately could.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to topics this week. As always, we talk about beta. There was a new release this week, iOS 15.4 beta 2. There wasn't a ton of stuff, but ironically, there is a notation of the fact that what we just talked about, that iOS 15.4 beta 2 is fixing that Siri interaction bug, which is good. So, and then again, it's going back 2 versions here, so but that's good. They're fixing that. I don't see anything really standing out that's really been changed in beta 2. I don't unless you I don't think you guys are too much on beta other than on maybe an iPad here or there. But
isn't beta 2 where the payment terminal stuff started rolling out?
I believe so, because they didn't. We're going to talk about that just a bit here, but.
That seems like a big thing that's in the beta. Otherwise, I haven't seen much notable in this one, because beta 1 was when we started getting the you can set up an additional Face ID so that you can unlock your phone with your mask on without a watch.
No
right?
Apple Watch, right? And then the
Was
universal
beta,
control.
Was that beta 1 or beta 2?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was beta 1, but I
think so.
It may very well be. They all blend together for me.
It was a beta, and it was very exciting at the time. That's what I remember. Okay.
Yeah, they do blend. I don't recall seeing anything that was discussed too much about with the payments, which we'll be talking about here in just a minute here. But I don't recall that if it's going to be 15.4 or well, it needs to be because obviously Apple announced it. So, but
well, not necessarily 15.4.
Yeah,
they might
it could
start
wait.
Beta testing in 15.4, release 15.4. It stays beta, and then if we get a 15.5 or 15.4 point whatever,
yeah, maybe
it could roll out as part of that.
Yeah. So I didn't see anything mentioned. WatchOS was also released, iPad OS 15.4. Not much in that area. Didn't see too much in WatchOS. Usually these incremental updates don't have a lot of stuff. They are adding support to emoji 14 characters. And silly stuff. We always have to talk about emojis.
But I think the emoji thing is important, and part of that is because it's one of the things that they use to sort of make most people interested in updating, right? True. Like, if we really want to make sure that you get the new version of iOS, that's when we're going to put in the taco emoji or the bacon emoji or the live long and prosper hand emoji. That's where, like, that's one of the things that they sort of use to get regular folks to go update, because security updates and under the hood bug fixes aren't very interesting to people. So you can get Spock's hand as an emoji option now is what's going to send lots of people to go hit that update button.
And
I'm going to mash the crap out of that update button.
Well, they also are going to have a melting face and a biting lip and heart hands and bubbles. So, the melting face.
Melting face.
I want to see that.
That's
one.
for all the Raiders.
I was going to say,
yeah. So
always remember, get both sides of the medallion.
That's right. And tvOS Beta 2 actually has something to talk about, which there hasn't really been much to talk about.
There's usually not in the tvOS betas.
They're going to be adding a captive Wi-Fi network support, which means you can use your iPhone or your iPad to connect the Apple TV 2 networks that need additional sign-in steps. What a concept! Because you can never, if you don't have internet, how do you register your Apple TV right away? So, and they said not only that, but the Apple TV video player for TV for 15.4 will have an up next queue that can be viewed from the now playing screen. And users can choose the content they have added to the up next queue with just a tap.
Nice.
Apple is also bringing back the tap to navigate feature to the physical and motor options after removing it last year in August 2021. And last but not least, they also are revamping the spatial audio controls. That's a good thing to hear on tvOS, as you can watch the video. You can watch any videos in spatial audio, and I thought it was okay now because I use my AirPods Pro when I'm watching stuff on the Apple TV and watching Boba Fett, and it's like, oh, this is so cool. So I think they've done good things. But good to see that they're actually doing some improvements, because you never really hear too much about tvOS or Apple TV for that matter, the device, because
it usually seems pretty static a lot of the time. Like, I have a previous generation, like a third gen or whatever it is, Apple TV, the one before the 4K. And I have one of those, and that interface is not dramatically different. And I have a second gen Apple TV that I just use as an AirPlay conduit on a television. And that interface isn't dramatically different. Like, it does look different because I'm not, I can't really change anything. All I can do is show and hide the icons on it, but it's the same tiles, and whatever you've got selected is the big thing at the top, and all of that still seems really similar, and it's not dramatically different at all, as things evolve. So it's really nice to see it getting a refresh, and to see that it does still look like something that Apple's paying attention to. It's one of those things where, we see a lot of stuff that sort of languishes, so hopefully once they get tvOS all spiffed up, maybe they'll go work on, Mac Mail or something, and we'll get something.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be great.
Yeah.
A girl can dream, Jeff.
That's right. A girl can dream. You keep dreaming.
Keep dreaming.
I mean, it's not like I said contacts, right?
The
That's true.
And then they are still continuing on preparing for driver's licenses in the iOS 15.4 beta. How far they're going to get is another story, especially the states, the way they are.
I'll tell you where they're going to get. They're going to get to 51 different places with that, because there are 51 different places that issue driver's licenses.
Including Puerto Rico.
53 or 54, because Guam and U.S. Virgin Islands.
Oh yeah, and DC.
They issued driver's license as well.
Well, 51 was going to be DC, and I didn't think the other ones were under.
Right. Oh, and then I forgot to. I thought you were including Puerto Rico.
Oh no, I just didn't think they. I didn't think they were all under the purview of the DMV that we all have to live under, and so I just didn't think that. I thought they were all free from that, but maybe they're not.
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah. Well, then my apologies to all of the territories that you all have to labor under the DMV like you do.
Yeah.
So when do we think 15.4 is going to be released? Because, this is the time of year that Apple does take a long time to between betas here, and the betas, who knows, we could be at beta 8, beta 9 by the time they're done here. But there is rumors of a March event, which we don't need to say too much about other than it's a rumor. But I would, with the track record of Apple, generally March, April timeframe, we always tend to expect.
There's always a spring event.
Event, so should be ready for that too, as far as that soon. So, next topic here: Apple released a statement today, as we record this, about the unwanted AirTag tracking, which we've talked about quite a bit in the last few weeks here on the show, and they're planning to address it with an update, and notably. The details were that that what was going on with people were putting these AirTags in places and being able to track you without even knowing about it. So a couple things they're going to do is they're going to put new privacy warnings here during the AirTag setup. When you set up the AirTag for the first time, you will see a message that clearly states the AirTag is meant to track your own belongings and not used to track people. Oh, okay, so you're just warning people. So they're going to be updating the documentation, and so we got a link in the show notes here for not only the article on 9 to 5 Mac, but the actual press release statement that was released by Apple and relates to this. So they're going to work with law enforcement. They're going to put advancements with the AirTag and the Find My network. They're going to address alert issues with AirPods. They said that they've received unknown accessory detected with AirPods, which they got to fix, and some AirPods Pro and AirPods Max. They will update the documentation and precision finding. The only thing they really didn't talk too much about, and not that we are, not we a lot of people that have it, but Android. I think Apple really should come up with it. They come up with apps for switching from Android to the iPhone. Why can't they have an app to help with security with people who are using Android who don't have an iPhone, but someone could sneak that in there? Don't you guys think?
I thought they did, but you had to launch the app,
right,
to check.
And it's not an Apple. I don't think it's an Apple app, is it?
I thought it was. But I mean, there's so much stuff out there. I could be completely wrong. But I thought Apple wrote a kind of crappy app for Android.
Well, you would too, but it's Android.
I might be misremembering, but I thought that there was something so that there was like a modicum of being able to detect one near you if you had an Android device, but I might not be remembering correctly.
Yeah. So, I mean, things like the display alert with sound, when the AirTag will automatically emit a sound to alert anyone nearby of its presence, detect the emotions. And I gave this example last week. My wife was driving my car because hers was in the shop. She had my keys. My AirTag isn't registered to her iPhone, and she's getting, this is an unknown AirTag that you're traveling with. So it works because I could say it firsthand. She told me it was popping up and Find My. It's like, this is an unidentified AirTag. So it does work as far as that goes. But yeah, I think the sound thing's got to be addressed, making sure that it's alerting people. If it is an identified AirTag, really, it should just start emitting a crazy sound until you find it. I mean,
and I like, we were talking earlier about how Apple was handling the privacy on the recordings that had been inadvertently captured and sent to Apple. And this is the kind of thing I like to see. This is, we know this is what's happening. We've released a statement about it. Here are the things that we're going to do about it. And here's how it's all going to, we're looking ahead to, like, here's the plan of action. And that's the thing that I appreciate, is a plan of action, and getting to see very transparently from them, this is what we said we were going to do. And then being able to go back and check, this is what they said they were going to do. Did those things get done? Was there the update that made it work for the, that made it work this way? They said they're working with law enforcement to nail down the ones, particularly I think the ones that some of the stuff that they were talking about with that is the people who've been selling them online without the sound in them, so that people can track, so that you can track somebody without the person understanding, knowing or being able to tell that they were tracked. So, this is the kind of stuff I like to see from Apple. Like, we're being very upfront about it, and we're putting somebody's privacy at the center of the conversation. And so this is much more the kind of thing that I like to see.
Yeah, I mean, we also have a link in the show notes, actual Apple support article, what to do if you get an alert that an AirTag Find My network accessory or a set of AirPods is with you. So they're going through and giving some details about unwanted tracking, and so at least they are addressing this. So it's not like it's a big secret, but releasing a news statement like that, that just tells you they know how important this is, because it's been, quite a bit of a press event.
And it's rare that Apple comes out and just makes a statement like this, as opposed to like a press release, which is like, here's a new exciting thing from us. And that, that's not what this is. This is, here's what's up. Here's what we're going to do about it. This is what we're trying to do to address it. And those don't happen very often.
Yeah. That tells you just how much of a headache this is for Apple from a PR standpoint.
Exactly.
Since the statement came out today, there is somebody who is sleeping well tonight for the first time in a couple of months.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Possibly.
Sleeping well. Maybe.
Well, better, because this is out the door, and like, I don't, I can point at that now and put my phone on do not disturb for a change.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, the amount of resources Apple is putting into this, minuscule for the company, but for muggles like us, massive amounts of money to address something that they never expected to be a problem. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, Tile should be looking at this and sweating bullets.
They really should be.
Because no one is pointing at Tile at all.
It's amazing.
And there have to be top level meetings at the Tile headquarters right now, where they're trying to figure out how to make themselves relevant, because they may have the lion's share of personal tracker devices out there, but they don't have the mind share anymore. They turned invisible in this space.
You don't even hear them mentioned. I mean, that's how you rarely hear them mentioned.
They have,
their
in
trackers
essence,
are a privacy nightmare.
Yeah.
If I have a Tile and I slip it in Jeff's jacket pocket, I can track Jeff forever. Jeff will never find out it's there unless he finds it, and we'll never get alerted that there's some weird device hanging out in your vicinity or anything. Mm-hmm. So, and that was part of my reaction. And David, you and I think you and I have talked about this here on this show, even. If you take Apple out of the headline and you swap it out for another company that does the same thing, would it be the same sort of headline, and would it get the same sort of breathless coverage? And if people were saying this about Tile, the answer is it should be, but they're not. Because all anybody wants to talk about is how Apple is dismissing all these people's privacy concerns, when they've got a certain amount of stuff that was built into the AirTags right from the get-go, and that simply is not the case with the Tile.
Absolutely. So then the next topic here, and they released another press release this week. This is Apple did unveil a contactless payment system that you can tap to pay on the iPhone. It's like having a contactless credit card to use your iPhone and link your card to it. And I found this to be rather interesting. It's definitely something that is a long time coming. The fact of the matter, that you're using your credit cards a lot as contactless purchases by just tapping a terminal. Why not the iPhone and the iPhone having this? So, Kelly, what you pretty much had a good understanding of what the technology is, or why this is doing. Kind of give the listeners share a little bit of insight on that, on your perspective.
So, well, what's interesting, I think this is interesting on two fronts. First of all, this is not Apple becoming a credit card company,
right,
which is what some of the conversation has been around, which is not true. And some of it is about person to person. And that's also not true. Like, what this is for is right now, like if I go to the store and I want to buy things at the store and the store accepts Apple Pay, there are three things involved in that transaction. There's the technology on my wrist or in my hand if I'm using my phone or my watch, depending. There's that piece. There's the credit card terminal where I bonk my thing to pay for the thing.
Right.
And then there's the person on the other side, like the register that terminal is attached to. So there's like three things at play here. And what this does is eliminate one of those things from the transaction. So if you've ever bought something at a food cart or a food truck or a farmer's market or a small business thing, maybe you have like a gig person who walks the dogs or cleans your house or cuts your hair or whatever, and you've had to swipe on their device, whatever that may be, or use the big block that holds the Apple Pay thing from Square or whatever it is. Like, this eliminates that. So instead of them having to have the Square terminal or the swipey stripe thing plugged into the headphone jack, like, you can just hit it straight on the phone and that will work. So number one, this is interesting because it's allowing people to accept payments and eliminate a whole bunch of headaches in the process.
Access hardware.
You just need to have the merchant account. Yeah, you only need the merchant account. This was music to my ears, I think, David, the same way it was to yours, which is it's a whole section of that interaction that I don't have to troubleshoot anymore if something goes wrong. And so it's just your phone and my phone. And if my phone is working and your phone is working, there's no reason that this shouldn't work. There are a lot of hurdles that go into this. This isn't just people hauling off and doing this. Like, you have to have, I think right now Stripe is the only one that's in beta.
Right.
And not only do you have to have an existing Stripe account, but you have to apply for the beta through Stripe in order to get your account set up properly to make sure that you're able to accept these payments this way. And then you have to be on the beta track of iOS in order for you to get to try this out. So there are a lot of things that go into that being useful, but and that piece is interesting that Apple has gotten into the payment process piece of this. Not being a credit card company, but allowing the NFC chip in your phone to be used that way, and to be used that way by people who are not Apple. That's the other piece of this that I think is so interesting, is that Apple has opened this up to Stripe, and I presume eventually Square and Clover and places like that, so that you can have, fully mobile payment terminals and not my phone in the vicinity of this other thing. And now I have both of these things and I have to figure out how to take the payment. And so that's the other piece that I thought was really notable about this when it showed up in the beta.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about think about these farmers markets, these small businesses that are using payment services. They don't have to spend the time to set up their Square terminal anymore. We're all carrying these iPhones now. I mean, why not the fact of being able to do it?
You don't have to charge it. Yeah, you don't have to charge it, and all of the Bluetooth traffic from all of the other people,
right,
all pairing their Square readers and Clover things to all of their devices. Yeah. And if you have a phone without a headphone jack and you didn't pay for the thing, now you have to get the adapter so you can have the Stripe swiper hang out the bottom of your phone, and like all of those things are eliminated. And Apple opened this up, like I said, to other companies, which
right,
is not a thing Apple's known for doing. And so it's kind of nice to see that too.
Yeah. Jeff, you got some thoughts?
Yes, I do. I always have thoughts.
I know you do.
This is simply Apple doing the right thing by listening to what people are saying. And every time you've been around farmers market, food trucks, whatever, these small merchants that are using iPhones with some sort of accessory device to process cards. At some point, you hear one of them say, "Why can't I just use my phone for this?" And this addresses that issue. It does not change anything with all of the stores and restaurants that have the iPad, Square, and Stripe terminals.
Right.
That's still a thing, and you'll still buy your hardware from the vendors for that stuff. This is just to make it much easier and more convenient for these credit card transaction companies to do their thing without their own users needing to have extra hardware. Great. Thank you for doing this. And I can't wait for it to roll out because it's going to make so many vendors that I deal with at farmers markets so happy.
And this is very razor blades and razor handle. Like, when I think about it, like, Square, because Square used to charge you $10 for the swiper. If you bought one from them, it would cost you $10. And then when you got it set up and got everything connected, they would put $10 back in your account. So that swipe thing was effectively free. And the Apple Pay one, I think, is $30. And that's not where they're making their money. Like, they want you to have the contactless payment option because they get a piece of every transaction every time somebody bonks a thing on the Apple Pay thing. So, like, that's the part where they're making their money. So all they ever did with that hardware in the first place was reel people into their ecosystem so that Square was getting a taste of all of those transactions. And Stripe is the same sort of model. Like, if you are set up with Stripe, then Stripe will process credit cards for you, and every one of those transactions, they get a certain little tiny piece of it, just like any other transaction, payment processor. Like, they're all sort of operating under the same parameters. So it's, that was never the part where they were making their money, because I saw some people sort of talking about the hardware in this is going to be, like it's a terrible idea. Why would, Square's going to be super mad about this because they're not going to sell hardware anymore. And frankly, I think Square's going to be really excited that they don't have to get support calls about how to pair Bluetooth things, why the headphone jack swiper doesn't work in my Lightning port, and on it, or USB-C port, and on and on and on and on. And, they're just going to, like, the number of those calls is going to drop precipitously as less people end up having to buy that hardware in order to do what they want to do. And, they're going to get to actually help people with the parts that actually need assistance. And I think everybody's going to be happy about that.
Yeah, and they'll still sell hardware to stores.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because
the point of sale stuff is a very different thing.
Yeah. They have all of their point of sale hardware that people are using.
Yeah.
That's not going to change.
Yeah. And those will still be things that are available, like the ones that aren't necessarily iPad powered, but it's the big screen and they tilt it around and you can, all of those things are still going to be a viable option for places like that. But stuff that's far more mobile, like a temporary location, like a farmer's market and whatever, those are going to be, those people are just going to be so much happier, I think, going forward. It's just better for everybody. So,
yep. And you did mention Stripe. We have an article in the show notes from Mac Rumors that talks about Stripe. They have a closed beta right now, so any vendors who want in, you have to apply, and Stripe will have to approve to. They're showing a picture, as we talked about the contactless credit card. The picture of a person with their iPhone as the terminal and their credit card touching that terminal. Mm-hmm. So not only is it iPhone to iPhone, it can be credit card to iPhone. So it's definitely going to be something to do that. Stripe's going to accept payments through Apple Pay, contactless credit cards, debit cards, and other digital wallets with no any additional hardware required, which is huge. And then even their partners like Shopify with the point of sale app is going to be coming out this spring as well. So NFC Technologies has been an exciting technology for quite a long time, and Apple has been kind of slow to the gate here with it. I'm happy to see that this is happening.
That's how Apple rolls.
That's how Apple Apple wants to make sure it's right and not just dive right in. So this is exciting.
I mean, they've had contactless for a long time, and so just allowing it to be open to other people and turning it into something, where you can accept a payment instead of just, make them by bonking the thing on the thing. I like to say. So is just going to be great. I'm really looking forward to all the places where I've had awkward transactions in the past, trying to get a card to work or whatever. I'm really looking forward to not having to accidentally be tech support for folks when something isn't working like it should.
There you go. And then the last topic we want to talk about tonight is today, the show. is a focus mode. I haven't spent a lot of time, and if I'm hoping you guys have more than me, that what is focus mode, and is it something that you'd really want to use? And I guess so. The first thing you want to know is what is focus mode, and it does introduce a way to manage your notifications so you can keep things on the check. We knew what do not disturb was. That was in previous versions before focus mode was released. That does have its own focus now, but how different is it? What's the difference between focus and do not disturb? That's where I think a lot of people get confused. Is different types of scenarios, like with the sleeping and driving and driving focus will send automated messages. And Jeff, do you use focus mode? Have you tried to keep yourself focused, not having your phone alert you on a lot of things?
I do, and I'm probably a horrible person for always referring to it as selective do not disturb, because to me that's what it is.
Yeah.
And
I just call it D&D plus.
Well, that works too.
Yeah.
I just rolled a 20. No messages today.
Roll for distraction.
That's right. It's there are specific applications or services that I don't want notifications from when I'm working on specific things.
Okay.
And then like when I'm recording a show, like right now, I just do the full do not disturb, so I get notifications for nothing.
Okay.
And it's great. So yeah, it's nice to be able to manage what could potentially distract you. And this is one of the things that I imagine that Brittany Smith just loves.
I would say Brittany. I was going to ask our friend Brittany.
Somewhere Brittany. Yeah. Brittany just looked off in the distance and smiled to herself, but she's not sure why. And this is exactly why. I was going to say, like, if you really want to dig into this, you should have Brittany on the show to tell you all about it, because she would be very excited. The thing I like about it is that it's so much more than do not disturb. Because you can set particular contacts that can get through no matter what. You can set apps or you can set an entire page of apps to disappear during a particular focus mode. You can set particular programs to always be hidden, like on your computer if you're using a specific focus mode, and only notifications from a certain thing are allowed to come in, while you're doing that. And having all of those things work the way they do is really nice. And I think we sort of got some incremental steps towards this with do not disturb while driving, and also with bedtime, because the nice thing about that focus mode is that those notifications that you would have had during that time are preserved. You just don't get like your screen doesn't light up, you don't get the right noise from whatever, and so then it says, while in sleep mode or while in work mode, whatever mode it was that you were in, like, here's the stuff that happened, while you were in a mode. And I am legally obligated as an 80s baby to make a Depeche Mode joke here. So I'm just going to make sure I'm just going to toss the reference out there for everybody. I'll figure it out. Focus mode is my own personal Jesus. There we go. While focus mode, nice. When the right focus mode is enabled, you can enjoy the silence. There we are. I'll stop. I
don't believe you will stop. No.
Tip the veal and try your waitress, because I just can't get enough. That's why.
But
anyway, so it's really, really good. And and this is one of those things, like David, last time I was here, we talked about Control Center. And if you just spend 10 minutes and make Control Center work a little tiny bit better for you, right, your life will improve immeasurably. And that's the same way I feel about focus modes. If you sit down and think about, what do I need my phone to be during this particular, recording a podcast, or during work hours, or during whatever other things it is that you're doing, parent teacher meetings or whatever. When you have those modes and you sit down and make a conscious effort to set up a couple of them, you will see how much nicer it is to have those things, because they can also happen automatically. So if your work hours are 8 to 5, you can have Candy Crush evaporate from your phone from 8 to 5, or Facebook, evaporate from your phone from 8 to 5. And that may be awesome. that may be a special ring of hell for some people. I don't know, but it's really, it's nice to have the opportunity to make that a thing that that you can set up, and then it's all waiting for me when I go check on it at lunch, or it's all waiting for me at the end of the day, or whatever. Because you don't have to miss anything, and like I said, you can set it up so that certain things get through no matter what. So if your mom calls you in the middle of the day and that that's a bad thing, you can make sure that no matter what, if my mom calls, she gets through or whatever. And and it's really nice to have the opportunity to set up those sort of parameters, and I really, really like it. And
they've got some of the default options with Focus, things like do not disturb and driving, fitness, personal work, sleep, all that stuff. But you were talking about you've created your own customized Focus items in the Focus. Have you both?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And,
yeah. It's easy to do. And once you have one set up, it's like any other new feature that we get on our phones. There's the intimidation factor because it's new and you don't know how to use it. Mm-hmm. And so you're just going to put it off. And then finally there'll be like some afternoon where you just really need to procrastinate. And so you go ahead and open up that feature and you play around with it for 10 minutes, and then you feel ridiculous because you realize I could have set this up weeks ago, months ago, and it would have made my life so much better.
Retroactively grumpy that you all of those times that you were in the middle of something and an alert went off that was embarrassing or awkward, or something happened that shouldn't have happened, and it would have been easy to eliminate with this. And if you've ever used Do Not Disturb while driving, or if you've ever set up bedtime, like you've already accidentally been using this feature, you just need to, it's just setting up bedtime for a slightly different time. At bedtime, like nothing gets through, or there's only certain shortcuts available to you on the screen. And, this is the same sort of thing. Just like Do Not Disturb while driving only gives you certain stuff. Same idea. Just take one of those and go, okay, what would I want for Do Not Disturb while working? What would I want for bedtime, but while I'm recording a podcast? And it's the exact same idea. Yeah. You just have to extend it that tiny bit further. So yeah, just like Control Center, spend 10 minutes, go figure it out. Go listen to Bob and I talk about it over on Daily Observations. Because Bob wrote a whole column about how focus mode is amazing, and we dug into it. And that was the thing that motivated me to finally sit down and make a podcast mode, so that I have a podcast mode that I can use.
Yeah, we'll put that link in the show notes along with the article I found as well. And then one last thing, I wanted to do one tip. We talked about this on Mac Voices Live the other day. I wanted to just kind of mention it. There's a link to a support article on Apple's site on the heart health notifications on your Apple Watch, and going in, you can enable the notifications with the heart rate app on your Apple Watch to alert you of high or low rates and irregular heart rhythms. And the way you do it is you actually go on to your iPhone and go into the Apple Watch app and then tap My Watch and then tap Heart, and you can set a parameter for the high rate and the low rate, and it's a good idea to have this, and it is good giving you warnings or irregular rhythms, or when you get an alert, and of course AFib was a big thing. That's the amazing thing about the Apple Watch is the fact of having that options and protecting you. And so many, we've heard so many stories of people that were saved by giving them at least a warning that maybe they need to go talk to your doctor, and sure enough, and that was they found they had AFib. So you have thoughts, Kelly, on this?
My thought is Jeff has a story exactly like that.
Okay.
So yeah, that was really all. I know. Yes. I know one of those stories I've heard is Jeff's. So.
Okay. So.
Yep. Short version. I have a dairy allergy.
Oh, right.
And I had unknowingly ingested dairy, and I started to have, of course, all kinds of problems because of that. One of them was my heart rate went up really high and stayed very high. A side problem that went along with that was my cognitive skills deteriorated very quickly. And so I was unaware that I was having a problem. And it wasn't until I was on the phone with someone else who was able to figure out something's wrong with Jeff. And then I realized I've been getting alerts on my watch about my heart rate. And they asked me, so when did you start getting these alerts? And I looked at the notifications, and sure enough, it had been overnight. They're like, okay, we have to address this immediately. And spoiler, everything in the end was fine. And with the right treatments and the amazing things that we have with medical technology, it was all fine in the end.
That's good. So be aware of that. No, thanks for sharing your story, Jeff. We appreciate that. And this is a good tip. And we got a link right to the support article. Make sure that you got your Apple Watch set to be monitoring you as well. So. Great show. Really appreciate you guys being here. I think it's time to wrap things up. We are at that hour mark here. So let's go and wrap up. That's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, suggestions to our email address, feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Twitter @intouchwithios. Support the show. Buy me a coffee at intouchwithios.com/coffee. And we would really appreciate that and help support the show. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you're notified when we do live streaming. And you also will know all the past shows that we record as well. That's at our YouTube channel at youtube.com/DaveG65. And visit In Touch with iOS magazine on Flipboard, where many of the topics we discuss are flipped into that magazine. So there's lots of great stuff. I know, Jeff, you've been visiting there. You want to, and a lot of others, and check out Flipboard. Mm-hmm. It's a great way to read some of the articles that we talk about, as well as the links that are in the show notes, of course. You can subscribe to the show in your favorite podcatcher, including Apple Podcasts and many others. But better yet, go to our website, intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us are there. I'm your host, Dave Ginsburg, and you can find me on Twitter @DaveG65. Kelly, thanks for being here this week. I always love having you. Tell everybody know how you can reach you.
I'm always so glad to be here.
Yeah.
I am very easily reachable. You can listen to me talk about topics like this and lots more over at the Daily Observations podcast over at macobserver.com. You can find me on the Incomparable Network, where I host a show called I Want My MCU TV, where we talk about the latest Disney Plus thing. We are plotting something in the gap right now between now and whatever the next Disney thing is that I can't remember. I think it's Moon Knight. And you can listen to us talk about it there. You can hear me on Greetings from the Uncanny Valley, where I talk about Westworld with my friend Don Melton, and other stuff over at the Incomparable. I pop up on this and that occasionally. And the rest of the time, you can find me on the After Show with Mike Rose, where we talk about Apple stuff and then just generally crack each other up for like 45 minutes at a time. And you can also find me on Twitter as Verso.
Thanks, Jeff. As always, thanks for being here. We always appreciate you being here and your insights. Come tell everybody where they can find you.
Well, I absolutely appreciate getting invited back every single time. I have so much fun, so thank you. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, JGamet on both, youtube.com/JGamet for my videos. Thursday, early in the day on The Big Show, Friday mornings on The Mac Show, most Tuesdays on Mac Voices Live, and then occasionally here with you too, and other shows I get around.
All right. Well, thanks. Appreciate it. And thanks to everybody listening for being here. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll talk again soon.